This podcast is sponsored by Jabra Enhance. Getting hearing aids is no picnic. It's expensive, confusing, time-consuming, right? Actually, no. With the Jabra Enhance Select and Premium package, you can get state-of-the-art hearing aids and professional care without the hassle. Jabra Enhance offers advanced rechargeable hearing aids delivered to your door for thousands less than you'd expect. No offices, no waiting rooms. Just take the online hearing test to personalize your hearing aids. Enjoy speech clarity, noise reduction, and hearing technology that adapts to your unique sound environments. And the audiology team can provide adjustments to your hearing aids remotely on request for 3 years. And the best part? You'll likely pay thousands less than if you went to a traditional audiologist. And now, for a limited time, save $200 when you order Jabra Enhance Select Hearing Aids with promo code PODCAST. Go to JABRAenhance.com, enter promo code PODCAST to save. JabraEnhance.com, code PODCAST.
For eligible individuals 18 and older in 50 United States and Washington, D.C. with mild to moderate hearing loss only. Audiology team may not be able to program hearing aids for some types of hearing loss. See website for details and important safety information.
Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Handle with Care, Cancer and Beyond is a podcast that gives everyone and anyone a place to come and keep it real about their cancer experience. Welcome to Handle with Care, Cancer and Beyond.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another edition of Handle with Care, Cancer and Beyond. I'm your host, Carrie Madrid, and I am so excited for you to listen to this newest episode of our show. It features psychic medium Bill Phillips, who happens to be a personal friend of my co-host, Chris Donovan, and his wife, Evelyn Arribas, and now he is my new friend. Right, Bill? Right. We're friends. Anyhow, Bill's got a fantastic, amazing story of really turning tragedy into triumph, if you will. And these stories just resonate with me because I feel like I've had my own personal story of tragedy to triumph. But I'm also very fascinated with death and dying and what happens after death, and are we able to communicate with people who have passed on. And so this conversation includes all of that. So grab a cup of coffee or a glass of wine, sit down, soak it all in, and then leave us a rating and review and let us know if you have any questions.
Bill, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, the Bill Phillips is here on the show today. I'm so excited.
So excited.
This has been a long time in the making. I think we rescheduled 3 times.
Yeah.
So between me leaving town, Bill having to leave town, and something else.
I think I had to leave town one time.
Was it when you went with your aunt, huh?
I think, yeah. My aunt was diagnosed with breast cancer, and I was flying to New Mexico, and I was like, I don't want to be on Zoom. I want to be in person.
Yeah.
So, yeah, thanks for making the time to come up here. So we're inside the Care Project right now.
The studio, yeah. That's where this is. I've known Bill for a very long time. He has worked with my wife on 99.1 KGGI. On the morning show there. He used to be a recurring monthly character in a sense of talking to some of the listeners and stuff. So he's a good friend of mine, and he agreed to do this show. We also did, however, record his meditation CD in this room.
Yes, I'll never forget that text I got. I think I saved it.
Yeah.
He sends me a text. He's like, hey, Care, do you think I could borrow your studio on this day? Do you know who psychic Bill Phillips is? I was like, yeah. He's like,
you do?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. And so, because I'm obsessed with all things psychic. Yeah. And he didn't know that about me.
I didn't.
And so I said, yeah, I know who he is. He's like, oh, well, he's recorded a new meditation and like a guided meditation. I was like, awesome, because we do have a wellness program here. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's what piqued my interest about having you on. I was like, can you get him on my show? I mean, you can still use the studio, but can you get him on the show? Because this is one of the things that we talk about is wellness and mindfulness. And I'm still learning all about it, but it's what I realized is, and one of the reasons we started the show is, being diagnosed with cancer, and for me it was breast cancer, but this is relative to all cancer patients, is, you go into that fight or flight, right? And you do your job and you get through it and you plow through it. And then when you're done, so to speak, with active treatment, it's the fallout.
Wow.
Hence our show, Cancer and Beyond.
Yeah, not to mention there's a lot of things that people don't understand. They're like, oh, your last cancer treatment, cool, bye. And
they think you're supposed to be all happy
like,
and
you're
jolly.
solved. You're solved.
And what happens is you're a freaking wreck, right? Because the totality of everything you've just endured has now hit you. And you have lifelong side effects like my lymphedema or my scar tissue spasming or chemo brain, which he's learned all about. I think I've given it to him too.
I made a sounder.
Yeah, we have a sound effect for that. So it piqued my interest to have you on because I think that you can really give us some great knowledge on not only how meditation can help everybody, right? Yeah. But specifically for my audience, not only cancer patients and survivors, but their caregivers, right?
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Who are often forgiven. So that's kind of how all of this gelled.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thanks for recording
of
your
course.
guided meditation here. Let's
right
talk
up my
about
alley, you know.
BillPhillips.com is the website. What's the little tricky thing you say to make sure everybody spells your name right?
Oh, yes. You want to spell it with one L and two P's, or you'll get someone else completely different.
I know.
Although he's kind of in the same realm of of wellness and fitness, but we're just different.
Not you.
People.
Got it.
Yeah, if you go there, you can buy the meditation CD directly from there. Get it. It's it's an hour long. It's very. I mean, I recorded it. I listened to it a few times at least.
Oh, wow.
It helps. It'll relax you down, and it's got a good little vibe to it.
What made you do that?
You know, I did one also years ago too, it was definitely in the works for many years. And for me personally, it's my go-to. I am part of what I do every day with my channeling, my readings is self-care. It's such an important part of what I do. And if I'm not in that space, then I'm not able to do it. So I have to really dedicate every day to that process. And so I wanted to bring people through my process as well to show them show them basically that, yes, we are living in this physical body, but it's only a small piece of a fraction of why we're here. Mm-hmm. And our spirit self, our higher self, our intuitive self, that's really why we're here, is to discover how to live life that way, free. And for me personally, meditation is that gateway to get there and to really untangle yourself from the ego.
Yeah, I was telling him earlier before you got here, like, I can't imagine what it must be like for you, having done some background on you and knowing. And I also, which you probably don't know, was at your Encinitas show.
Yeah, she was just there at the show.
Oh, awesome.
And so I took my friend Nicole, who has a crazy intuition with me, and she often will tell me things about myself that I need to hear. And I said, this is the right one to go with me. Aww. So he says, oh, well, stay after the show and go say hi. I said, no, I'm not. I'm going as an observer. And if something happens, I'll be there. And so I sat in the way back, and it was really a beautiful thing to witness. It's different when you watch readings on television or YouTube's than being in a physical room where personally I can feel energy. And I know that 5 years ago, I probably wouldn't have said that, but I've had this awakening of some sort. And so I want to talk about that too, because I think that ties into how you got started, right? So a lot of what we talk about on our show is people that have traumatic experiences and then find a purpose or a new perspective even. In my case, I always say cancer saved my life.
Right.
So I was going through a lot of stuff before cancer, a lot of things both by circumstances and some poor choices that then, as a young single mom, here at 41, I was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. Wow. And my experience has been, I'm one of those poster childs for go big or go home.
Oh, yeah.
Chris?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You can hear that on the show, but I've had some near-death experiences and, circumstances happen in my life. And so this diagnosis for me, it sounds so cliche when people say, oh, I had breast cancer, now I got to start an organization. No, girl, you don't.
Yep.
You don't. But for me, I did.
Right.
I just knew that I knew that I had to create the Care Project. I didn't know where it was going to go, how it was going to go, when it was going to go, but man.
It's going.
It's going. 8 years later. But I feel like when I started listening to your audiobook, because I'm visually impaired, I started listening and I heard this story about your mom. So can you share a little of that?
Yeah, and it's interesting because my mom was 41 actually when she passed from her cancer. And it was such just a build up to that moment. But I always say that people that come into their spiritual gifts, whether it's, a psychic medium or a channel of any sort, there's usually some kind of trauma that occurs that breaks us from our regular way of thinking, our rational mind. And sometimes that could be a death or a transformation of being at death's door as well, to show us what's important in life. So for me, and I had many experiences as a child as well. And my story was a little bit more unique in the sense that when I was very young, I had a lot of trauma myself. My parents went back and forth. I was kidnapped when I was 6, taken across the country, was homeless. It was just like one thing after the other. But what it did was it basically allowed me to go into a different place within myself where there was I call it the force field around me of white light that as a child, I did not know how to describe it. All I knew is that when I was experiencing trauma, I was able to close my eyes and basically transport myself somewhere different. And that place was life-changing for me, So I give all my gratitude to that space, to spirit, to the energy that basically protected me on my journey. And I feel like many people go through that in some way, shape, or form, and it's basically up to them to have the awareness to understand, okay, I'm here for a different purpose. I'm not just here to, work and pay bills, basically. I'm here to experience why I signed up to come back into this life again.
That makes sense. Like, Chris, we've talked on the show a lot about how survivors now have this renewed or sometimes a brand new appreciation for the simple things. You'll see on my Instagram, I post all the time, Bill posts all the time about like, it's the simple things that matter, right?
Yep.
And that speaks to that because we have this like aha moment of, oh my gosh, the sun came out. Let me go feel that on my face for 2 minutes. Whereas before we'd be like, oh, it's hot. And it's, you complain about it or whatever.
Right.
We have this new perspective. Even if you think you had your stuff together before, it's so just different.
And I'm sure that you see things brighter as well in life since everything's happened. I think it takes off this veil of illusion around us,
That's the perfect way to say it.
Yeah.
When I was listening to part of your story, the thing that sticks out to me a lot, I get the chills saying it, is the school bus where you talk, or the bus, where you talk about walking through this bus and how you would, what you just described, have this sort of this go in this bubble.
Right.
So there's a couple years in my life that I don't remember anything. And I know several people like that. Do you suspect that it's sort of the same thing, how your brain protects you from trauma or whatever? Do you think it's kind of similar to that?
I absolutely do.
Okay.
Yeah, it's self-preservation and it's part of our healing process too. Like what I've learned through the years, even now in my adult years, is I will have moments where I'll smell something and I'll be brought back in time to a place where I was trying to push down. And I'm like, oh, okay, here we go again.
Here we go.
There's more healing to happen, and I think that's really important to honor that. And I'm always a voice box for my clients too when they're going through their own grief process. When I read for them especially is telling them, don't hold it in. Part of what's happening right now is that spirit wants you to release this.
Yeah.
They want you to let go of it. The only way that you can do is if you feel it, let it flow through you. But so much of the time we're sort of told that you got to be strong, or you can't be vulnerable or emotional. And so what happens is that you're like a shaken up bottle of Coke that wants to explode with nowhere to go. So
I had some Mentos to that, and that was me a couple years ago.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it fell apart. But when you said that your clients, when you talk to them, it's a release for them.
Yeah.
Now we are here, Handle with Care, Cancer and Beyond.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people lose people to cancer.
Right.
And a lot of people are, I don't want to say afraid, but there is some sort of stigma around psychics.
Yeah.
Now, I don't believe in any of that because you're my friend and I've known you for years and I've seen just amazing things happen.
Yeah.
But I definitely think that when people are grieving or dealing with these things, that should be an option too.
Absolutely.
Just like Reiki or just like meditation or just like exercise or just like, psychic getting a reading for, or at least listening to a meditation CD and feeling that energy.
Yeah.
I think that people should look into that too, just because it will help you.
Like a complementary therapy.
He's never read for me. Not once, but I've seen him read for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I feel good just seeing him read for other people.
Well, that's what I felt in Encinitas, watching there. I remember one of the very first things that came up was somebody on a motorcycle that had passed. And so it was just very powerful. It was very powerful. And I feel like since my own diagnosis, and actually, let me go back, well into childhood, I recall like I'd have a best friend who was having some drama at home and she'd be crying. I was like probably 7. And then I would be crying. And my stepdad used to walk in the room and go, well, what are you crying about? And I'm like, because she's crying. Like, I think I've always felt other people's emotions so well. Right. And I don't know what that is, but I since starting the CARE project, it's even worse.
You're an empath. And, you know, part of that, too, is when you had your awakening, you can't go backwards.
Right?
Once it happens, you have to step into that unknown. And it could be scary at first, you know. But what happened with me, and I think that you may get this, too, is that when I stepped into that unknown and really trusted the process, because when I came out of the closet with this, it was at a time when it's not at all as sensationalized as it is today. You know, it was definitely scary at that time, but my guidance was just to trust and to go. And it really just kind of unfolded little by little in big ways. But
yeah, let's go back to that, because we went off on, I went off on a tangent. I tangent all the time. So that's my chemo brain goes over here. But let's go back to your mom. Yeah. So your mom was 41. She had cancer. And she passed.
Yes.
And how did that affect you?
Well, you know, there was a whole story build up to it where it was 6 years in the making, because my mother, she suffered from drug and alcohol addiction in her life. And so I was basically fending for myself a lot of the time that I was in New York. And we were in hiding from my family here. So it was a really strange time. And when my mom was not able to take care of me, the person that I was staying with found my family back here and brought me back to California, or actually it was Las Vegas at that time, and then back to California.
How old were you then?
I was 9, almost 10. And so when I was able to get out there, I thought that it was not going to happen, but it happened. It was surreal for me. It was like one of those moments in your life where your heart is just being completely just torn apart. Yeah. And you know, yes, there was a definite suffering, pain from that. But what happened a couple of nights later was I woke up to my mom in the room. And that was something that was, I can't put it into words, really. It was euphoric. It was beautiful. It was just an incredible experience. But as a 14, almost 15-year-old, I wasn't sure what to make of it.
Right. You're like, what do I do with this?
Yeah. And also my grandmother, who had raised me, you know, is a very devout Christian. So it really just made me doubt, you know, after that experience. But I had more and more experiences, though. So what I like to always tell people, even before I begin a reading, actually, is that the word psychic and medium is used a lot nowadays to give a description to something, but I consider myself a channel for spirit. And I think that really takes away that pressure of like the psychic word, you know, which has had stigma, so much
if you will.
Stigma, the person on the block that has the storefront. I get it. And that's always been my guiding light, is the channel and is the light.
Yeah.
You know?
How do you process when your mom just appears before you?
Oh my gosh.
I can't, I just keep thinking about that.
You know, it was such a surreal experience, and it seemed like it was an eternity. It was probably a lot longer than like a minute or so in that experience. Yeah. It's something that I can think back to like this at any moment.
Can you feel like you're there?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And the only thing that I can say is that it was definitely a outworldly, supernatural experience, you know, that also my soul was definitely yearning for as well. And so once that happened, I really delved deeper into reading more about the other side and about death, you know, and trying to find my own opinion about my own faith base too. I think that's really important for anybody, whether you were born or raised Catholic, Christian, whatever it is, that you have the ability to find your own faith here.
And even if that means that you stayed with whatever you were conditioned to believe.
Exactly.
Or if you go elsewhere. We all have our own, I always say personally, we all have our own path.
Right. And we all have free will, and we all come into this life to basically unprogram or reprogram what we learn as a child too, because I feel like we each and every one of us that's here right now is not here by coincidence. You know, we signed up for this. We basically projected ourselves into this physical experience, and we came to unravel the illusions of life, you know, and to basically find our own truth to it. And everyone's truth will look different.
Right.
You know.
So after your mom came to you and you realized, okay, wow, I think I have this gift. What happened? I mean, like, how does that transfer? Like, how do we get from there to where you're at today? Like, oh my gosh, this is incredible.
You know, I never really called it a gift.
Okay.
I remember, so it was about 3 weeks to a month later after my mom's passing, and I was in Orange County, at a strip mall, actually, with some friends.
I thought you were going to say strip club for a second.
Chris, you always go
Might
there.
as well have been. But
I swear to God, you're going to say that for a second.
Chris got excited for a minute, like, this is a story
that's my,
Bill I
that's my
haven't
alter
seen.
ego.
Yeah,
No.
right? Okay, strip mall. Back to strip mall.
And I was 15, and we were walking along, and this woman walked out, and she was one that had a psychic shop, you know, and so there was, of course, that fear already of, you know.
Yeah.
But she wasn't asking me for money, and what she just told me, you really have this amazing gift, and it'll be 3 years until you know what I'm talking about. And I was like, okay, yeah, you are crazy.
You're like, get your voodoo away from me, lady.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then as those 3 years went on, not only was I having more visitations from my mom, I was also experiencing more out-of-body experience too. That was scary, comforting. I can't also put it into words, but I know that it was part of my evolution at that time. Okay. And then as it went on, when I was 18, I went to a class randomly one evening, like literally drove and parked my car and was in a parking lot with the psychic shop there. I know that sounds crazy, but that's how it happened. And so I walk in and they're doing a class on mediumship, and I'm like, okay, let's see what happens. I blew my mind that night, basically, and everyone else that was there, and I did not know what to do with it. I was like, oh, that's what it's like? Okay.
You're like, I can do that.
I'm like, that's just for me, basically, like breathing, basically, but I had to trust it.
So was it like a whole, like, oh, okay.
It was a whole aha moment, because it was not at all. When my mom passed, the movie The Sixth Sense had just come out maybe a few weeks prior to her passing. And so that at that time, it was all about a kid seeing dead people, you know, and so that was the programming across society, was you had to see someone with like their head cut off, you know, and that's just not at all how I experienced it. It was way subtle. It was much more of an internalized process for me, like having a daydream, basically, just very much in my mind and in my sense base. And when I was able to just trust that, and not try to edit anything, just say what was coming to me, that's when the tears were rolling, you know, that's when the healing was happening. So I still ran from it, and I was pursuing at the time opera performance as well. So I went to the conservatory in San Francisco, and basically Spirit was like, you're not going to run away from this. So when I went up there, it was like I was living on the DL with this, kind of in both ways, because I hadn't come out of the other closet either as being gay. But it was one of those moments where I went to San Francisco and I trusted the process, and I was finding myself giving readings there to different people, faculty, you know, colleagues, and by the end of my time there, it was very clear.
It was real
clear. It
It
was really clear. And within, I would say, 6 months, it was like things really began to build for me. And I never went out and asked for it. You know, it was one of those things where I told Spirit, okay, if you want me to do this, you will find a way, and you will send them to me.
Kind of like me in a podcast.
Yeah.
But you know, one of the things that I think is a lesson to be learned here is, I always say, when people say to me, like, how did you start the Care Project and why? And, you know, because like, I don't have money to fund a nonprofit and this and that. But what I say is, you know, I get this, knock on my shoulder, if you will, like a tap on my shoulder, like, hey, you know that thing you've been thinking about? You need to go do that. And I go, yeah, no. Who am I to do that? I'm not doing that. Right. And then I get like smacked upside the head, and I'm like, hey, man, I said I'm not doing that. Like, and then something brings me to my knees, and experience something. And I go, okay, I've effing got it. Right. And so there was one time, and I'm going to scroll for a second, but there was this experience I had. I was walking in a CVS drugstore to get something at the back of the store, one item. And so I jetted in real quick because it was the middle of COVID. No, it was right before COVID. But I was running in, and it was like midday. So there was like hardly anyone in the store. So I run down, I grab my one item, I turn around, and I go to walk towards the front of the store. And I was kind of looking down at my phone, probably. And these two women approach me, and this woman says, "Oh my gosh, your aura is so strong." And I said, "Okay." I said, "Hi." And well, let me back up. So sorry, I'm scrolling, Chris. You can edit this. My arrangement.
Oh, I will.
So this is what happened. I got invited to go to a surprise birthday party for a dear mentor of mine. And I didn't want to go because he kind of surrounds himself with this upper echelon of my community. And I'm like, I'm just a girl from, around the corner. I'm not going to this thing. But I really love him. And he's been a big brother to me. And I was like, I got to go. This is one of those things. You got to go. And I was like, I don't want to go. I'm single. They're all old, married, rich people. I don't want to go. So I had this whole conflict with myself, right? And then I was pissed at myself for thinking, you do belong there. Get your ass over to that party. So I sucked it up, put my big girl panties on, went to the damn party, had a great time, fit right in, talked to everybody. As I left there, I'd been having this big, bright idea, as I always say, about starting a podcast and public speaking. Who am I to do that? I'm not college educated. I'm not this. I'm not that in my mind, right? So I go into this store to get the item. As I'm walking back, the lady says, "Oh my gosh, your aura." And I don't even know what the hell that meant at the time, right? She's like, "Your aura and your energy, it's so bright." She goes, "You just have this blue all around you." And I was like, okay, like, what is that? Yeah, my blue lights in the studio.
That's also, by the way, my color as well. Blue? I don't know if you know or not, but that's always been my color, is what's behind you right now. Yeah.
So she says to me, she goes, "You just have this energy about you." She goes, "I don't mean to freak you out." And she was very sweet. And the thing is, when I'm telling the story, I would have normally freaked out, but I didn't. It was very comforting to me. And I just went, okay. And she said, "Do you mind if I tell you something?" And I was immediately thinking, "Girl, don't ask me for no money. I'm not giving you money for a psychic
Here's
reading."
a pamphlet.
Yeah, right.
Are you with LDS?
I totally thought she was going to try to sell me on something. And she goes, I go, "I'm really in a rush." I really wasn't. It was after the party. I was trying to go home, but it freaked me out just a little bit, because I knew I had all this stuff brewing in me, that there was these big, bright ideas and things I needed to do.
Right.
But I didn't want to do them because I was like, no, I'm not doing that yet. So she says to me, "There's something that you've been thinking about. There's something that you really want to do, and you need to do it." And she said, "I know you're scared, and I know you think you're incapable and you're not smart enough." And she said, "You're going to do that thing whether you want to or not. So you might as well put one foot in front of the other." Then she goes on to say, "Do you see a pair of shoes?" I said, "Oh, God, I got to go." I said, "But thank you very much. I really appreciate that." So I get in the car. I call my friend Nicole. I'm bawling, right? And I'm like, oh, my God, I keep having this dream about red ruby slippers like on Wizard of Oz. Oh. And I keep seeing these pair of shoes in front of me. I have the chills telling you this.
Wow.
And I know in my mind that if I just put one foot in and slide that other one in, I got this shit, right? That's how I think. I'm like, I got this shit. But then I'm like, but who are you to do that? That tape that plays over and over. And she said, "Well, that's your sign. You need to go do that." Chris posted a week later about doing a podcast, and I was like, here we go. So I say all that to say what you were saying to me, the way when I read that is like when you are given something and you're told by however you want to call it, whether it's spirit, your creator, God, whatever, the universe is giving you something like, hey, you need to go do this.
Right.
You need to go do that.
And
what do you say to people like me who are afraid to step into that?
Well, what I love about you is that you didn't run from it. You were able to pick up on the signs, and take that as a validation, where maybe as someone else that is still in that conundrum of, ego driven, it would maybe see it as a coincidence. You saw it as an opening. But I feel like when anyone's about to begin anything that has to do with their purpose here, there's always going to be that huge wave of fear, because part of that lesson is to be able to release the fear, to release the ego, to be your own spirit self, your own divine creator, and
control too, right?
Well,
I think we always have to control our steps.
That's all part of the ego. Yeah. It's the ego wants to tell you 5 reasons why it's not going to work. It's going to convince you that you're not good enough. It's going to make you feel like you're going to fall on your face. It's going to create all this disillusion.
So when I first hear you say the word ego, what I think is someone who's arrogant, someone who's confident. But what I'm hearing you say now that I'm really listening is it's not just that. It's even me saying I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I don't fit in.
Exactly. And we all have one.
Bam.
We all have the witch with the bee in our head, basically, that wants to tell us differently. And I really do believe that part of our purpose being here is to be able to discern that ego versus our higher self, which is what you did in that moment. Yeah. And I had a similar experience when I was in San Francisco. It was my first year there, actually. And Chris knows me. I am not a big partier. I hardly ever go.
I make him drink.
Yeah, I'm exactly. I'm basically very much a homebody. And for the same reasons as you. I don't like. I have to protect myself. I have to cocoon myself and recharge and everything. But there was one night when I was in line to go to the bathroom, actually, with my friend, and this woman walked out, and out of nowhere she stopped at me and she goes, "Oh my gosh, you have the gift."
Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Are you struggling to lose weight and keep it off? Tired of wasting time and money on starvation diets that lead to more frustration and stress? If there was a weight loss solution that could actually work for you, would you try it? Then head to Golo.com.
I'm Steve. I lost 138 pounds in 9 months on Golo.
I'm Amber. I've lost 128 pounds with Golo.
If you're ready to take back control of your life, head to Golo.com now and see how Golo can work for you. That's Golo.com.
My sleep is way better. My inflammation has gone way down. Golo saved my life. I was way overweight. That's what sent me down the path. I wanted to make sure and live for my kid.
I have literally tried everything. I was on the verge of getting gastric bypass surgery, and I saw the Golo commercial, and it was the last thing I tried because it worked.
Join over 2 million people who found a better way to lose weight with Golo. Your healthier and happier life begins at Golo.com. That's Golo.com. Again, Golo.com.
And she looked at me in the eyes, and my friend that was with me, like she knew the whole backstory, and she was just like, she could not, she was laughing. There's just no way. It was so random, but again, those people are our earth angels, our messengers, basically, that are there for that purpose, to show us, keep going on the path, keep trusting, keep evolving. So it's really interesting, but I really want to bring that back to, I think this is important for everyone at the moment as well, is what's been so helpful for me is having strong boundaries, energetically, not only with people, but with spirit as well, and with energy.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
That was going to be a question. Yeah. Like, how do you make them go to the wayside when you don't want to be bothered, in a sense? And I know the answer to this, but I want you to say.
Yeah, they're never fully in agreement with me, which is just how
like
how
kids.
it works.
It's like having a kid.
Yeah, that's exactly how it is, actually. Yeah. Yes,
or a dog.
Yes, someone pulling at you all the time, So what I've learned to do is just basically say, okay, when I'm not doing this, I will put something around my wrist. I will say a mantra. I will do something that tells me you're off right now. You're off the clock right now. Like, be human, physical Bill right now. And then when I set up my my space to do what I do, Spirit knows. I have certain hours. I have my space. I have my own office for this, and so they know for the most part to come meet me when I'm there, but they don't. Again,
like he's setting the mood. He's setting the mood. It's like if you go home and Evelyn's got candles going, and rose petals. Come hither.
Right, we're gonna do this.
I'm ready.
Now.
But it has gotten better. I remember when I was 18, 19, I really could not sleep at night. All I heard was my name being Billy, Billy, Billy the whole night. And
really?
Yeah, it was one of those moments where I was like, am I just losing my mind right now?
Yeah,
like,
I was going to say.
What is going on, you know? And I didn't have enough understanding of it at that point. But what I've come to realize is that I am in control of them. And when I really grab the bull by the horns, that's when I feel like I'm in my power, which is, you know, the antidote for anyone in this life is to basically be in their power. Mm-hmm. Right. Regardless if you are an athlete or a dentist or whatever, you know, is that we're here to basically be in our power.
And when he's in his power, it's gnarly. It is so cool to see the people react to the things he tells them, and how it's therapy.
It's palpable too, like being in the room in Encinitas.
Oh yeah, just watching it's therapy
large
too.
Room, you know, and it was palpable, the energy. But what I love about you, Bill, is that I've told Chris I'm slightly not obsessed, but you know, I'm very interested in this whole world of experiences, and so I've watched a lot of different people and how they work, and I realize that everybody's different and everybody may have different abilities, but your energy and your presence is so calming and so just like, hey, I'm here. This is what I do. It's not high pressure sales. It's not fast talking. It just was like the second you walked out, I was like, okay, here we go. And I didn't know what to expect. But the minute you spoke to the first couple people, I was like, oh my gosh. And my friend, Nicole, who's very in tune with her own emotions and mine, apparently, was like, she looked at me, she said, "Ooh, it's hard to watch somebody else who's grieving." And I said, man, it really is, because you really feel for people.
Yeah.
And then I know other people that have like zero empathy. They're like good people overall, but like they feel nothing. And I'm like, how can you watch that show or that video or whatever it is that's evoking all this emotion out of certain people, and other people just are so, I don't know what that is. Do you think people are born that way? Do you think that's maybe trauma or experiences has caused them to have that shield around them?
I believe that we're all born with empathy, and we're all born as a channel, and then something happens that blocks that. For a lot of people,
I think culture has a lot to do with that.
Absolutely,
religion
culture,
probably
religion.
too. Mm-hmm.
Like how many times, you know, can you think about the child being told that their imaginary friend was just imaginary?
Right.
That's when it begins. It's in that range.
Well,
you
I
know?
was telling Carrie, and you knew this too, we told you before, many a times my kids will be sitting in the playroom doing something like, oh, no, Grandma just left. She was just here playing with me. Grandma passed away a couple of years back.
Yeah.
So they've all seen Grandma Anna.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she sends butterflies. That's what she sends. And your mom sends dimes?
Butterflies.
Your mom sends butterflies too?
Uh-huh, yeah. Why butterflies?
Who was the penny? Who had the penny? Somebody said they find pennies.
Oh,
was that... I don't know who that was, but yeah, I remember hearing that too. Yeah. But I thought yours was a dime for some reason.
My mom sends me white butterflies every day, whether it be on the back of a car or in person or in an email. It's always there. She's also very particular about sending me numbers too, so I'm very aware of numbers. And when I work with Spirit too, they're very particular about that information as well, because they really want to show you, like, yeah, when you see my death date as the time, that's not a coincidence, you know, and that's kind of how they are working with us, is with what we have in our vicinity, you know.
I saw a lot of that at the Encinitas experience. Yeah,
I've seen them do readings from 100 people to 10.
You know, I didn't tell you this, Chris, but this happened to me the other day. I probably just 3 or 4 days ago, I had a lot of worry going on about some various things that are going on. And I went to bed thinking, and, you know, I set my diffuser and I put my meditation music on. I set a whole scene just like I have here in the studio to go to bed, right? And my dog's at the end of the bed. And so I pet him, you know, like Fuzzy. I get like all like, you know, okay, we're going to bed. But I just couldn't shut it down. And I felt like, gosh, I'm so anxious. I'm never going to sleep. And I just was like, okay, look here. I need you to come around and make me calm. Just protect me from whatever's going on right now. And I went to sleep, slept really well, woke up at, I don't know what time it was, but I reached over to my phone to look because I am blind in one eye and I don't have my contact on at night. So I looked over and I was like, hey, Siri, what time is it? And it was 3:33. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what does that mean? That's got to mean something. It's 3 numbers. So I looked it up and it said guardian angels. And I was like, oh, you can't make this shit up. You can't.
That's crazy.
Right?
It's so funny that you say that because this morning, I'm going to show you a picture. This morning I got into my car to go to my workout that I do. And my car, you know how it shows you how many miles you have left?
Yeah.
I took this morning, actually.
Get out. It says 333.
That's what it was. Yeah. Something told me to take it. I didn't know why yet, but now I know the reason why.
Oh my gosh. That's is
funny.
crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I say it all the time. There are no coincidences.
No.
See, and that's the stuff that blows my mind.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't know that. You didn't know that.
No.
You didn't tell me. I didn't know any of this.
No, I hadn't told him that. And usually I would kind of tell him stuff like that. But we've been really
That's
busy.
the stuff you see and you experience when you go to these, when you see Bill do his thing. And it's again, he's never read for me, but just watching it's therapeutic for me.
Yeah.
It makes me, go, okay, cool. I'm not crazy.
Yeah. I you know what? When I left, I didn't know what to expect when I went. And when I left there, I thought, I wonder if I'm going to be like all like emotionally, like, how you just get pent up, like, okay. And he had said, oh, stay and go introduce yourself. Remind him who you are. Tell him he's coming. I said, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to go experience it. I just was in the moment. And when I left there, I was so calm.
So his voice does that too. His very relaxing
Yeah,
voice.
I was so calm.
It's a power of spirit too. The energy is very high in those events. You know.
You know what? I didn't tell you this either, Chris. Sorry, I'm having all these moments right now as I look at Bill. When I first got in there, I had told Nicole. She goes, "You think your dad will come through?" And I said, "No." I said, "I'm not here for that." She's like, "Well, why not?" I said, "No, I'm not here for that."
And you have to be in the right mood too.
I went on. It was in my mind. It was a business trip. Yeah. I'm doing my due diligence before you come on the show. I want to experience it so I could speak
R&D,
to that experience.
Research and development.
Right. Okay. That. But when I sat down, I quietly said, because I didn't want to tell her, I quietly said, "Okay, Dad, if you're here, let me know." And I felt something on the back of my head.
Him playing with your hair again?
Yes.
That's a big one, actually.
Is it?
It honestly is. Yeah, it is.
So
it feels
Googled
like
it.
the wind maybe, or like the AC's on, or something like, it's not.
Okay, I just told him the story that I Googled it because I was afraid, like, okay, it's coincidence, right? Even though I know they don't experience, they don't exist. But in my mind, that's where you default to. Like, okay, what could that be? Am I stressed out? So then I Google, because I love medical stuff. I'm like, oh, well, I might have tension in my neck, pressing on a nerve. And I'm like, no, that was a direct answer.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was a direct answer. And I felt immediately when I went in there, like, this is not about me today. Yeah. This is about just being in the moment. And I try to do that more often, where you put your phone away. You're not recording everything where you are, and you're just literally just in that moment. And it was just such an honor to be there. I was saying with Chris earlier about, I have sat with dying cancer patients, and I find it such an honor and a beautiful experience to do it, even though it's very difficult for me. Because I see them and I think, I am you. You are me.
Yeah.
Right?
So, and some of the patients that I have had come through the CARE project were diagnosed stage 1 and 34 and a mother of young kids. And I was a mother of 3, but they were older, and I was stage 3, and I had this really advanced case. I'm very high risk for recurrence, right? So when someone else passes away from this disease, I instantly go to, oh my gosh, why them and not me? And then I have to go through the whole survivor's guilt, which brings us back to why one of the reasons we wanted to have you here was the whole meditation and the way that we manage those emotions, because we know that stress can cause us to be ill again. And we have to really manage, and I say I have to really manage that. One, I'm a survivor with high risk for recurrence, not on medication to block estrogen, because I couldn't tolerate it. I run the CARE project, so I'm constantly talking to men and women affected by breast cancer and their loved ones and their kids left behind. How do you manage that? Because not only were you managing the grief of your mom and all the trauma you'd been leading up to that moment, now you discover you have this ability and you've got spirit inundating you. How do you deal with it? How do you find that balance to manage that?
Well, I feel like when I'm reading for somebody, it's almost like I have spirit in the background facilitating that, like just what words I'm using, how they're painting the picture, that I feel gives that
Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Comfort in that validation to whoever's in front of me. But personally for myself, though, and I always tell people this too, it's hard to hear this on a physical level and a human level, and I do get that. But we come into this world for a very short time. And although we view death and view that loss as heartbreaking, which it is because we're in the physical being, it's part of why we're here. And I think that when people accept that truth, like we're here for a short time, we come to learn lessons. Sometimes those lessons are about cancer. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they're about murder. Sometimes they're about accidents, They're on some level, how do I say, put into our contract, so to speak, But years ago, I remember when I was learning about the connection between mind, body, and spirit, I came across a book called You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. Have you ever heard of this book before? And it became sort of like my Bible at the time, actually, because it showed me how interconnected our belief system is with our outside world, and the mentality too about when energy gets stagnant, right? So you're talking about when you're not in a good, clear space, the energy can morph into something, basically, and if there's not light in something, it will turn, it will change color, basically. So Louise Hay had, I want to say it was stage 4 lung cancer. It was a very significant cancer. And through this new belief system, she healed herself with her thoughts and with her feelings. I want to say it was even at a time when she wasn't using chemotherapy or any kind of like Western kind of modality of healing. And that became revolutionary in the 70s and 80s of this new thought concept. So I feel like when people take the responsibility as well into their own being and they learn to choose differently, then they see life differently. You chose on a soul level to stay here to help other people have the awareness of what you went through. That's why this all happened, and when you look at it from that perspective, it's a gift. It's not a curse. It's not like, oh my God, why, woe is me. It's like, thank you, God, and thank you, Spirit, for giving me this opportunity to show me what it feels like to have to surrender.
He has. I'm looking at Chris. I'm looking at Chris right now, and I'm telling him that Bill has no idea of my story. I'm sure you haven't listened to this show before, but one of the things whenever I share my breast cancer story is that I always say, like I said, I was 40 at the time. I turned 41 by the time I got my exact diagnosis, but I was. I had a young son in the military, and I had a daughter in 8th grade and one in 10th grade, and I was the booster president at the local high school for the basketball program. So my life revolved around my regular full-time job and running that booster club, raising money for those girls. And I was consumed by it. Sorry, that was chemo brain. I couldn't find my word for a second. I was consumed by it, and I thought, God, there's got to be more to life than this, than just going to work and grinding. And I have been a survivor for many years before cancer, right? So I was walking up Mount Rubidoux here in Riverside, which is how I got my exercise. I was in really good shape, and I would go twice a day. And I was walking around and I was having a conversation with my creator saying, what am I supposed to do with the last half of my life? There's got to be more than just grinding, going to work, surviving as a single divorced mom, and raising money for this basketball team. There's got to be more to it. And I was very fulfilled helping those and stepping into the role of a faux mom or parent for a lot of kids who didn't have one. But it was 2 weeks later I rolled over in bed and found my 2 tumors. And I was like,
yes.
Oh, really? This is what we're going to do now? Okay, thanks, God. Not what I had in mind, but all right, here we go.
Not the exact sign you were looking for.
But I've shared the story before, and Chris will tell you that we often will ask patients, well, how did you feel when you got your diagnosis? Like, what was the first thought? Like, was it panic? Like, oh my gosh, I'm going to die? And I had what I feel is an uncanny peace about it. I just knew that I knew that it was a responsibility given to me to show others how to deal with it. And people think I am feeding them bullshit. I'm just going to keep it real. They think, oh, she started a nonprofit. Now she's going to make money from. No, I don't make a dime. This costs me money to run. Yeah. But I do it because I know it's what I'm supposed to do.
Absolutely.
And I say, as a result, cancer saved my life. Look at, he knows.
Oh yeah, I know.
Oh, yeah.
He's now a part of it.
And that's how I met Evelyn years ago too. I'm sure you know the story too, was I did an event for LLS in Laguna Beach to raise money for it. Yeah. And that was my way of paying it forward as well, you know. And I feel like there's something to it when you're able to work in numbers to spread that awareness. And they've raised so much awareness over the years and have found cures for certain types of things. Yeah. So you talked about when you found the tumors 2 weeks later, and you just knew you knew that was the answer, and that's because you have that awareness too, you know. And that's a gift in itself, you know. Yeah.
I have a question, Bill. Have you ever? She said that's happened to her, and it's happened to you. Have you ever walked up to someone and said, "You have the glow"?
Oh dear. I'm going to say yes to that, but I was a lot younger and a lot more
green.
Yeah, I had just no. At the time when I was 18, 19, and I was like, there was so much pent up excitement about this that I remember, like, I didn't have any boundaries. I used to walk up to someone and say, "Oh my God, your mom is with you," and X, Y, Z, but not everyone wanted to hear that though, right? And so that's when I made my intention, okay, I'm not going to do that anymore. I don't care what I'm seeing on TV. That's not how you do it. And I'm going to set up this rule with spirit that if they're to come to me, that you will find a way for that to happen, you know. And that has always been the case. Like, people are like, I'm not even sure how I heard about you, but I saw your picture. I knew I had to meet with you or whatever, you know. And I take it as a compliment. I'm like, thank you, Spirit. I get it, you know, because I feel like just so honored to be their vessel for this work.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like you're helping so many people.
You are.
Thank you.
Just survive. I mean, that's what we're doing in this world. We're surviving. We're finding our light. We're finding what we have to do. But a lot of people are lost, and a lot of people need just to hear some certain things. Yeah. And when I see you do your thing at whether it be small groups or big groups, it's relaxing, relieving, and it's incredible to see the people go from like tense to just like, oh my God, thank you so much. Thank you. I need, this was better than therapy. This was better than meditation. This was, you know, are.
It's like they're stuck in a knot of grief.
But it's another way to get healed. And I think people should look into that. You know what I mean? And it's just amazing that some of the things he's done. And you were my friend first, by the way. Evelyn's, by the way. Evelyn thinks we were friends first. No, we were friends first, I think. I'm pretty sure.
That's hilarious.
But
did I meet you the first time at Cindy's house?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, for the group reading.
Yep.
Okay, that I'll never forget because it was a crazy evening. But
that was where you had you brought up Danielle's dog.
Oh, okay.
And I was telling her about that, how you were saying something about, you know, a puppy having a hurt leg, and she's like, no, it doesn't hurt leg. And like 2 weeks later, he got hurt, and had to have leg surgery.
Yeah.
So, and Danielle's a really good friend of ours, and he knows Danielle.
Yeah.
I have seen you do readings small and big, and I know that I've seen your demeanor change from time to time when something rough comes through that you don't necessarily want to say to that person as bluntly as you probably could. How do you handle those?
You know, that's a really great question, actually. And thank you so much for saying all that you said. I really, truly appreciate it. I feel that my job is not to sugarcoat anything, but it's also not there to place a seed of fear as well. So I'm really good about how I word things. If there is a tie to like a future event possibly happening, but a lot of the times though, when I'm doing like a public event for hundreds of people, I'm being very cognizant of being in their shoes because I know what it feels like, and you go blank, and how personal it can be as well. And I have found myself before crying with them as I'm giving them a message because that's just who I am, you know? And I know that, I learned a long time ago to have that discernment and don't let your emotions get in the way of it. But I just don't care. That's just, it's part of the process. And it also shows the vulnerability that it takes to be a channel as well, And so I always view it as, how would I want to be in this situation? Think of yourself, or think of how you would want to feel in this situation. And so I'm so good about being compassionate. It's exactly what you were bringing up earlier, and really just in tune with the needs of who I'm working with as well, because it's such a vulnerable or scary experience. And I see many people privately that are coming to me on the DL. They're either very religious, or they come from a different background. They don't want anyone to know about it. I can't tell you how many husbands I've read for that came without anyone knowing, because they wanted to have the experience, but they didn't want anyone else to know about that they were having the experience. But since the pandemic has happened as well, there's been a lot of mental health concerns right now. Absolutely. A lot of people crossing over that way, and that's been challenging for me. Just to with everything that we've gone through on a global level the past couple of years, just to hold space for that person as well. Right. And that's why we're here. Regardless of our gifts, we're here to hold space for people. We're here to hold that love and that light.
Right. Yeah. Right. Well, I can't thank you enough for doing what you do. I mean, it's so important. I just have to breathe for a minute. I feel a little heavy right now.
Thank you so much for joining us. I have
one question.
Okay.
Sorry.
I wasn't closing out.
I know, but I have it's something on my mind. I was telling Chris earlier, I stumbled on a show called Psychic Kids.
Oh, yes.
Have you seen that? I think it's on Netflix or Amazon Prime.
It's an old show with Chip Coffey.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so Chip is quite the character. And I was just like, okay, I just want to have drinks with Chip, right? Like, I just want to have drinks with him. But I was fascinated by these kids and their various experiences, and how the parents, as a parent, I'm feeling like, oh my gosh, I can't, and some of them have very different cultural, religious backgrounds, all the things we just touched on. What would you say to a parent whose child comes to them and says, I'm seeing things or I'm hearing things? Like, what advice can you give to them?
I would encourage them, regardless of their belief system, to find some way to make it normalized, to find some way to be accepting of it. Not to go to a place of, oh, you're seeing things or you've watched too many scary movies, like I was told as a 5-year-old. It's really important to support that process. And we're seeing it a lot more right now, actually, too, with just the evolution of humanity and people knowing that it's real, And so I think across the board, parents are being more supportive when they see their child talk about their imaginary friend. So I would encourage them to even make maybe like a routine out of it. So maybe instead of having game night, to have like meditation night, or to have something, where we come together, we set an intention, we meditate together, and we talk about what we're experiencing. Because a lot of times people, especially children, will hold on to those experiences out of fear, and they will suppress them like crazy. They'll never talk about it till they're 40 and they have a huge, again,
or 50 like me.
life crazy experience that really, like, I don't want to say force, but that makes them go to their knees, basically, of surrender, to show them the truth. But I feel like I wish I had that support when I was so young too. And I work with a lot of people now that have children that are in that same space, and so just be their mentor, be their champion.
I think it's like anything else, right? Any other experience, even, and I bring it back to my Cancerland experiences. There's so many of us that have forms of PTSD, different degrees of it, I should say, and people often dismiss it when we try to talk. And they're like, "Oh, you're just going to use the cancer card again, or you're just going to," and it's so it just how do you say it? It makes it worse. I mean, for lack of a better phrase, it just makes it worse because we finally feel vulnerable enough to tell you we're really struggling with scanxiety. Yeah. Like I have a CT tomorrow. I'm 9 years out, but I have scans every 6 months or to a year, and they're constantly watching me. And even him, I said to him, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, I was like, oh, this pain in my head and this. What if it's brain cancer? He's like, knock it off. And I'm like, I know. Like, I don't live in fear. I really don't.
Right.
I don't live in fear. He can share that with you. But I live in a very conscious awareness that this could happen. Mm-hmm. This is the land I'm in. It could happen at any moment. And I'm not afraid of it.
I think that's a coping skill that you have, though, because you've taken this on head first since it started. You started the CARE project. You were like, hey, I got lumps 2 days later after I told God what was next. And, you've always gone in head first and with a realistic
I'm very
edge
matter
to it.
of fact.
Yeah.
I feel like some people look at me and they think I'm crazy because I have the ability to compartmentalize. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a good and a bad thing at times. And so for me, it's a constant management.
I just think that if you say it out loud, like, okay, well, I think it's obvious it could come back. I am high risk.
Yeah.
It feels better.
But then I hate when people say, this is part of our Whining with Care episode where we let people just say what they need to say without telling them, just be positive and don't put that in the atmosphere. And I'm like, like giving them the finger, like, come on, man, look, my feelings are valid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think that's the point I'm trying to make is like with these kids that come out and say, hey, this is my experience. It doesn't matter what you think or feel about it. If you think it's right, wrong, or they're losing their marbles, you need to validate them, right?
Yeah. We live in a society where people want to just give you a pill and and silence
Fix
you
basically,
right?
Yeah.
And I think it's important to be able to discern that and to know better. And I also, what I'm finding a lot over the past decade is that people that have quote unquote mental health ailments are just really intuitive.
Yes.
Very sensitive, very psychic. And they've been told that they're crazy. And so they go within, they're afraid to talk about it, they self-medicate or they go to a shrink to get a pill to numb it, and it makes things so much worse.
Yeah.
We
need to learn to face it and sit with it.
Absolutely.
Manage it. Wow.
Yeah.
Are you looking at me?
No, I know because you often read my mind. We just have this thing I think we're both in that space. I think we both sit in that space at various times, and that's why we work well
but
together.
You've also you walk the lines of death though as well, and I think that really puts things into perspective, and it shows you not to live every day like it's your last. That's always been my intention every day too, is that you just are never sure when you're going to pull out of this.
Right.
It's all soul oriented, it's all subconscious.
Right.
So just to make the most of every moment, truly.
Yeah, we always say on the show, those old cliches that your grandparents always said, life is short, and this perspective is everything.
Tomorrow's not promised.
Yeah, all those things. And I'm like, no, that shit is real.
Oh, yeah, that's real.
True. It is so true. I know.
It is so true. It is so true. Okay, well, we got to go because I know we're just hogging up all your time.
Oh, my goodness.
But
I've enjoyed every moment of this. Thank you.
I love you. I appreciate you. I love what you're doing. Thank you for helping so many people.
Thank you for helping.
I saw people leave that Encinitas building just so much lighter.
Yeah.
And that's really
every time I've gone,
really
it's people are leaving the room like happy, excited, like a weight was lifted, even if they didn't get a reading because of the energy. It's just it's great.
Yeah.
I love it.
Thank you.
Yeah, it is. It is.
That's why I do it. It's why I'm here, So
BillPhillips.com, 1L, 2 Ps.
1L, 2 Ps. Get that meditation. Meditation, man. What a powerful tool.
We should try to see if we can schedule you to do a group meditation for her survivors.
I would love to do that. I'd love
awesome.
to guide meditation.
That would be really cool because we got the meditation room and your CD and everything, and you could just do yours. Yeah,
I'm down.
We'll set that up.
Sweet.
I'm totally down.
Well, thank you, Bill. You're a rock star in my mind.
Oh my goodness, thank you, Chris.
Thank you for coming on doing this.
So much, and thanks for everything. And it was an honor to be here today.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Thank you for listening to Handle with Care, Cancer and Beyond. Please let us know what you think of the show by leaving a rating and review. And don't forget to share it with a friend. For more information or to connect with Carrie, go to thecareprojectinc.org.
Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. See website for details.